Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings, with me, Gretta Chamberlain, Yvonne Kraeher, Leigh Stima, and the Realm of Beings. Shifting Impressions, which is one of the vehicles that supports the transmission of the Realm of Beings, is here to assist you in delving into your being by providing numerous topics and discussions for you to intake as you deepen your connection with your inner world. Shifting Impressions is here to assist you in strengthening yourself as you excavate to understand your true nature. Leigh, Yvonne, and myself, with the Realm of Beings, eagerly invite you to join us today and learn to shift your mindset, shift your thoughts, and shift your focus to recreate your life and produce a new you. Shifting Impressions starts now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm Leigh, and I'm joined by my co-hostesses, Gretta and Yvonne, and, of course, also the Realm of Beings. We are here live every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Transformation Talk Radio. If you have a question, please call us at 800-930-2819. Thanks. We'd love to hear from you. So when you hear that term, realm of beings, but you ask yourself who they are, how do they operate in our lives, why are they coming through with these messages now? Do we all receive guidance? How can we learn how to use it in order to flow through our lives with ease? These conversations will help you examine your life and your creation of reality. They will help you to shift your impressions and understand what you are creating in your life and how it shows up. When I introduce the podcast, I always introduce also the Realm of Beings as being co-hosts with us. And in a previous podcast, we were talking about how we are all connected to this guidance. And when I was preparing for today's podcast, I get inspiration from all over. And admittedly, I am a student in all of these teachings. I am still trying to understand fully how to create and how to shift. So with all of you, I am beside you learning. I know nothing. I'm always evolving. So I look to different places for guidance. So I selected a video on YouTube, and what I heard in the first couple of seconds was amazing, because he was talking about the realm of being. And I said, the realm of being. The realm of beings. Isn't that kind of a funny pun? Because in our episode today, the quote that we'll be working with is each one of you is so filled with strength, so move those mountains and relish in the joy of seeing them slide on down the yellow brick road of illusion. And what I recognized is when we can inhabit that space within us, the being space within us, that when we can recognize the energy that's coursing through our body, when we stop and actually feel the breath that we're breathing, that energy, that breath, that is the same energy that Gretta channels, and it's always flowing to us. It's just we have to stop and recognize it. And so from that place of being, is that how we can then recognize these quote unquote mountains or challenges that we create in our lives? And from that place of being, does that enable us to have the perspective to see it for what it is, perhaps an illusion, or see that it's occurring in this present moment and respond differently than our programmed reactions from past? Ladies, what do you think about that?
That's interesting. What was the last statement that you said, though? You said something very important at that last. Can you repeat it?
I was speaking extemporaneously, but I was asking that if we're in that place of being, that centered place, is that how we can take a fresh look at these challenges or these mountains that we are perceiving in our life and look at them with fresh awareness and fresh responses?
Right. I think you mentioned the word past.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that caught my eye and my ears when you said that, because there is no past at all. So all of the experiences that we have and that we think we have had, or that we think we might have, are all going on at the same time.
At the
Everything is
same
on
time.
at the same simultaneously. There is no past, there is no future, there's only the now. Everything is in the now. Even you being in your mother's womb is still in the now. It's still happening. Nothing stops happening. What we do is that we make some choices that are going to override that. It's going to override things that, let's say you create something that you don't like or that you don't want for some reason or another. You can override that with the energy. You can always override that. You're never stuck in a place. And I think that the realm of being, you're right, that realm of being is our inner being. That's where the realm really is inside of us. But most people think it's outside of us. See, the challenges that we have, the answers or solutions to the challenges, all of that is internal. So I would say that you really hit on something, Leigh, when that clicked in your mind, because that's it. You hit on the internal, the internality of our beingness, the internality of that. It's like when we open up our understanding or open up our being. What that means is that we are going deep into our memory of self. See, we know what we are. We know everything that we're talking about in this podcast. We already know. I don't care where the person is, where the individual is, they know everything. What we do is we forget it. So now going into the inner realm means that we are exploring what we already know by way of remembering it. I don't know. What do you think, Yvonne?
Wow. I'm just sitting here in total awe because everything that we're bringing up and talking about, we could have a whole podcast and an entire discussion about these concepts. But what came up in the beginning was, this is a huge, I think, quantum shift. It was for me, just speaking from my own personal experience, to go from what we're taught and almost programmed to de-remember. I don't know if that's even a word, but to forget is more the word I'm looking for. But a lot of people, a lot of folks think of time as linear, that there's a present, and then because there's a present, there's also a past, and there's a future. So with that in mind, it's a big shift for people to think everything's happening at the same time, and that's kind of where we are, bringing this up at this time to have people our audience, especially to sort of look at these concepts that are floating out there in a different way, that there's other possibilities that are more kind and more loving. They bring up, kind of harmonic things in your life. So yeah, I agree. And the only other thing that I want to mention too is being versus doing. For me, again, just speaking personally, when I started my process of diving deep within and remembering, coming to a trusting my inner world, my inner voices, the signs, the signals, my whole world did open up, and I started to remember. In fact, I keep remembering. My dreams are more active. Things, like synchronicities show up. So it's really no accident that Leigh kind of, preparing for the podcast, boom, comes up with this other person that's on YouTube talking about being versus doing. And I think people do get so stuck in the doing mode, the mental constructs of the mind. I have to be here on a certain time, which creates stress. And when you sit back and connect and let things flow, it just seems like things just kind of go in a more like an easier path. And again, tie it back before I stop talking here to moving the mountains. Like when look at a mountain, and a metaphor is as a mountain is a obstacle, a challenge, something that's hard to get, kind of blocking something, and it's a challenge. So how would we get through that challenge in the physical world? Well, there's so many ways, so many choices of going around the mountain, going through the mountain, water, melting, the over time, or kind of the process of erosion. So there's so many things that are so deep in this discussion, and I'm glad we're here on the podcast talking about these things today, because it's important to bring them up.
I think one thing though, when you say mountain, moving the mountain, I think the first thing that it's important for people to understand is that they created the mountain.
Right.
See, that's important to understand that everything that happens in our lives, each one of us creates that experience. I don't care what it is. If you stubbed your toe, if someone brought you a bouquet of flowers, you created that. And how do you create that? You create that by way of your thought and by way of your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get ready to move that mountain or move that challenge, you're going to use thought and you're going to use emotion. I always say to people that equate our lives with a car, an automobile. If you don't put any gas in the automobile, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to sit right there. But soon as you put the gas in it and you get in it, you can move it. Turn on the key, hit the pedal, whatever. But it can move because now it has gas. Equate the emotions with gas. Equate thought with the vehicle. Here's the thought, but the thought's not going to go anywhere unless you add the gas, and the gas is the emotion. So more emotion you put into something, the more that emotion creates a reality for you. So to move that mountain is to begin to, first of all, also look at the mountain. What is the mountain? How do I feel about that mountain? How can I, or what about that mountain do I want to change? There might be some things you want to keep and some things you want to get rid of, but you're going to put the emotion there. That's the driving force, the emotion behind that.
Yeah, so it seems like it's just really like taking a pause. If something that you create in your life appears, whether it's, the bunch of flowers or the stubbed toe, whatever those challenges are, perceived as right or wrong, then you have to just pause and take a minute or two and stop instead of reacting to it. Like, people do, like when they hurt themselves, they have an accident, before you know it, you're going into the loop inside your mental, your head with a mental process. Oh, and then you go down that path of whatever, wherever it takes you. But if you could just, I mean, for me, I'm talking about, and actually everybody, to say, okay, I stubbed my toe. This is just what happened. How did I create that? Oh, well, whatever. Maybe I put a piece of furniture in the way and it caused me to stub my toe, or I was in a rush to get somewhere and I wasn't paying attention. So, there's so much there.
Right. Well, one thing is that I'd like to add to this discussion that usually when uh, you're learning about quote unquote metaphysics or spirituality, however you want to define it, one of the first tenets is that thoughts are things, that thoughts are things. So it's important to understand it. It's important because when you understand that, then let me watch my thoughts, because your thoughts are creating the reality and they're being manifested through the pushing of the emotion.
Yeah.
You see so it's like going down that yellow brick road of illusion is that we can understand then what is an illusion. We can get rid of it. We can change it. That's the beauty of knowing that this is an illusion.
Yeah, it frees us. It gives us, it just opens us up to, rather than being stuck in a certain place in our life, in a job or whatever it is, anything, you can change that. Just
Right,
a new
right.
thought, a new emotion towards it. And yeah.
But see, sometimes one emotion that's really strong and that will really help you to go down the yellow brick road, is fear. I
Ooh.
know we're going to be talking about that next week, but I think some people that I facilitated for this week, that was such a big issue for them.
So
Fear.
it's in the field, that fear, that it's just all around us. So I think this is fascinating topic and really appropriate for everybody to kind of take a listen and kind of stop for a minute. But we are getting ready to go on our first break, where I can't believe it. We've already approached that mark. So yeah, Leigh, do you have any closing thoughts before we move to our little break?
I just, another intriguing discussion. And I think when we come back from the break, it could be helpful, perhaps, because Greta, you cannot just say past, present, and future are happening simultaneously without a little bit more depth to that statement, because I think I heard some head explosions when you said that from the listeners, because I mean that is a concept, this linear time, and it's very embedded in us. So I think that's something we need to tackle a little bit more when we return. So thank you for joining us on Shifting Impressions. We're headed into our first break and we'll be right back. Thanks for listening.
Welcome back to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. And I'm Yvonne. We're here with Greta and Leigh and the Realm of Beings every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern and check your time zone for more specific information. But we're back again, and we're here to discuss moving mountains on this week's podcast. We do want to thank you for joining us, and please keep in mind that you're welcome to call in, make comments, questions. We're live on Facebook, and we're recorded on YouTube. So please feel free to call in and ask any questions you might have. Right before break, Leigh sort of connected us back with the concept, which seems pretty foreign to a lot of people. It's hard to wrap. It's still a little difficult sometimes to think about this when I really think about it. But the idea of past, present, and future being on a linear timeline. And Greta sort of challenged that with, no, that doesn't exist. So I'm curious, Greta, to and I think our listeners would also be curious to have you go a little bit deeper into that idea before we continue with our topic today, which is moving mountains and those challenges and fear of those things. So here you go.
All right. Leigh, did you want to say something about that first? Because I know we were talking about it, before we left, or we were talking about it during our break in the audience. Didn't hear what you were saying. So could you share that with us?
I was just thinking that it's a large concept, and perhaps some people have maybe only heard that for the first time, you saying it. So I too kind of understand it. I mean, maybe in just language, I always want to reference to past, but I think it has something to do with this being presence, right? If you're present and something is arising in you, it's actually not past. It's arising right now at that now. So, what I'm understanding.
Okay. When I started this about 30 years ago, I used to believe in past lives. And I used to believe in future, because it makes sense when you're reared in this cultural framework that we are, and that's talking to anybody, that you know that I was two. I've gone through the process of being two. So where is me being two? It's in the past. That's what you think. Now, I want to stop right there and say that there are 3 languages, and I'm going to bring them next week because I didn't know we were going to kind of segue into this. But there are 3 languages, 3 groups of people that their language is only based in the present. There's no past tense and there's no future tense in their language. And they are individuals who live on this earth right now. So
that sounds like a cliffhanger. I don't know.
That's why I said I'm gonna bring it next week.
Oh no!
We
have to make sure we're here next week, then. So please, join us next week.
I forget the names. I forget.
We like the cliffhangers. We've been doing them since the beginning. So yes, here we go, friends.
So their whole society is based in the now because that's how they think.
Yeah.
Their whole
I've heard similar things about language. Like in English, we have the word love, but in Sanskrit, there's hundreds of ways to parlay the concept of love. So it kind of goes in line with that. Like love isn't just love. It's multiple dimensions and, over multiple timelines. It means different things.
But see, that's the other thing about this. Now we're really getting into some deep stuff, because what is the illusion that we see? See, what is the illusion that we're talking about? Because part of the illusion is past and future. Those are illusions. That's why those other three societies have removed themselves from that particular illusion, whereas the rest of us have embraced it. And so when you travel into our inner beings, we've taken a detour off of the yellow brick road. We're not searching for the wizard to guide us. We're not searching the wizard. What is the wizard? The wizard is, Dorothy believed that the wizard could solve all things. So she was looking outside herself. And so were the scarecrow and so forth. They had to look outside of themselves to find the answer. How do I get back home? How do I get my heart? How do I get my courage? The wizard is going to give it to me. That's almost like saying, I'll translate that into the concept of it's in divine order. There are people that come and tell me, well, it's in divine order. That's like going down the yellow brick road to find the wizard. I said, so they think it's in divine order. That means that there's an entity, a divine entity that created an order, and now they have to adjust to it. And so what I say to people, what is the meaning of divine order? Divine order means you are the divine and you are creating the order. I'm going to say it again. You are the divine and you are creating the order of things within your life. What's in your life? You are totally in charge of your life. You don't need to go find the wizard. You don't need to go down the yellow brick road. Just look inside yourself. Go deep inside yourself. So past, present, future, it supports us here, but it's an illusion. It's only the now, the present. That's all there is. How do I know that? When I do the facilitation work that I do to assist people in making their transformations, I can go and see them inside the womb of their mothers. I'm not going to the past. I'm looking at what is going on right now. While all three of us are sitting here talking to each other and talking to the audience, everybody, I can go find you inside your mother's womb. That is happening now. So what is that? Energy. Now, in the science that we have here, they say energy cannot be destroyed or created. It just is. So when you think of being in your mother's womb as energy, it can never be destroyed. It has to stay that way. It has to stay in formation. So you are an embryo while you are an adult, because that energy is what made you an embryo, and it cannot be destroyed. So therefore, you being in the shape of that embryo can never be destroyed. So it is now. That's about the easiest way, I think, as we go on, because we can get into lateralities and all that stuff.
Oh, save that, Greta. We'll
Yeah,
use that as
I'll
another
save that.
cliffhanger.
I'll save that, because otherwise, but that will help when we get to laterality somewhere down the line. That explanation will help people understand better of this past, present, and future. But I understand how people believed in it. I mean, myself, I believed in the doggone thing. you
I'm
know.
still, I'm still, I'm still contemplating the wizard and the yellow brick road. And what happened to Dorothy when she went to the wizard? She actually found the wisdom within herself, and she said, "I do have the courage. I do have the love and the heart."
But look what else she found. When she found the wizard, she found he wasn't real.
Yep,
It was an
yep.
illusion.
It
That's
was an
right.
Anything
illusion behind
inside of
Right.
the
yourself.
magic curtain. Yes, right.
Because in her mind, while they and all the other characters, while they're walking down the yellow brick road, they have in their minds what the wizard is going to be. The wizard is our savior. He's going to save us from all of this challenge. I want to get home. Help me. The wizard's going to help me. And then when she gets behind and sees that the wizard it's only a regular man who sits behind the megaphone or microphone or whatever, screaming and making the other individuals think that he's really all saying, omnipotent and omniscient and all that good stuff. You know, she
But
realized that.
every
Right.
one of those characters in the end saw that everything they were searching for, whether it would be to get home or the courage of the strength of the lion or the heart of the Tin Man, is that what he was looking for?
Yes,
His
Yeah.
heart?
the love. Yep.
Mhm.
Everything dwells within us. So if we are creating all of the challenges from within, that eliminates all of this blame that we can put on others,
Right.
right? Or that we've been told to believe that, oh, someone else is doing this to me. That's another illusion.
The
Yes.
victim
Right.
mentality that's inside people's head, and then it gets supported, right? We create that in a way for in our lives, and then we attract people that support that. So that brings us to another topic that I know we talk a lot about when we're not on the podcast is create, support, create, which I think we need to devote an entire podcast to that
Yeah. Yeah.
concept.
We can. Yeah. Because that itself is a quote from the realm:
Mhm.
create, support, create. And we'll get into that. But I think today is important that everybody, I don't care what condition you are in, I don't care what physical condition you are in, you can change it. I think out of this podcast, if we can get people to understand they don't have to settle for anything, they can change it. you know, I was experiencing congestive heart failure, which is something people usually die from. And I remember I saw on television this young man, he was in his 20s, I think it was a basketball player, had died. And the newscaster said he died of congestive heart failure. And I'm going, holy moly. I said, I am not dying from congestive heart failure. I'm going to change that. And that's exactly what I did. I don't have it now. I know what it's like when you get ready to walk across the street and you can't breathe and you feel you've gotten to the other side of the street and you feel like you're dying. I know what congestive heart failure is like.
So
But
that
I
was a lesson for you, Greta, to experience it and to realize that you could turn around and uncreate it or heal it or whatever terminology we want to use.
You know what? It's what I say is what people have been learning lately from us is that if there's something there you don't want it, release it.
Release
Actually
it.
say it in your mind or say it out of your mouth. I release this thought or I release this emotion. Sometimes people get attached to the emotions of others to their detriment, what they would judge as being their detriment, because detriment is judgment itself.
Hmm.
So release it. But once you release it, you say immediately, I love myself unconditionally.
That's another tool. Like the
Right.
last tool that we had about, we talked about water and putting joy or love like underneath the cup of water or glass of water and infusing it with love and drinking that joy. And I think these tools are helpful to help people, kind of understand a little deeper or remember. So yeah, let's
You
keep
know,
that in mind.
yes, because you can I release this pain. Pain can be emotional pain, pain can be psychological pain. I'm going to replace it with joy because that's what we were talking about last week. So, joy, joy, joy. We
Okay.
don't have to be saddened. We don't have to be tied down to fate and destiny. There are nations of people that believe in fate and destiny. That means if I am crippled, I must stay crippled, either
Or
crippled in
labels.
mind or crippled in body. I've got to stay that way because this is my destiny. There is no such thing as destiny. There is no such thing as fate, other than they are part of illusions that we
And
believe in, like past and future is a biggie.
okay, well, another cliffhanger for the audience. We're coming to the end of our second segment. We will take a short break, and when we return, we will chat about this directly with the realm of beings and hear how they want to weigh in on this moving mountains, solving your challenges quotation. We'll be right back. Thanks for listening. Welcome back to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings. I'm still Leigh, and I'm here with Yvonne and Greta. Greta is now, I say, going backstage to bring the realm of beings to stage, on stage, and we will chat with them now about this quotation that was received. Each one of you is so filled with strength, so move those mountains and relish in the joy of seeing them slide on down the yellow brick road of illusion. Realm, are you present?
Yes.
Hello. Welcome to Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on Transformation Talk Radio. Today, we were talking about the quotation Greta received. Each one of you is so filled with strength, so move those mountains and relish in the joy of seeing them slide on down the yellow brick road of illusion. We were talking about being in that space of being. Uh, can you add anything to our conversation today? What would you like to share with us and the listeners?
You don't understand that you're strong. You think you're weak. That's the challenge. And you stay uh in the illusion of weakness because you don't love yourselves. You don't love yourselves. So therefore you create things that don't represent love of self, joy, peace as you see it. So you think, in a sense, you're weaklings, many of you. You sit and you go into these things called depression. I'm depressed. I can't do anything. I'm depressed. I'm hurt. This is a time to rise. This is a time to rise. Get off of that road, that yellow brick road that we wrote about. Get off of it. Because it's due to you loving yourselves. Every week, We say that. Love yourselves. We say that. How do you love yourself? Don't put yourself in a saviorhood. I want to help these people. I want to save these people. And then you turn around when they don't reciprocate, then you say, look at those people. They didn't appreciate what I was doing. And then you blame them and you judge them when you did not love yourself. I have fear. Why do I have fear? You had to learn it. You learn fear. Sometimes we learn it from our parents. And they learned it from their parents. You're handing it down from one person to the other. One person to the other. It's one. I'm fearful. I'm fearful. I'm fearful. I'm fearful. That's what it is. I'm fearful. I'm fearful. I'm sad. I'm sad. I'm afraid. Why?
Sounds like those words are like you're owning them personally.
You have to own them in order to create the reality, Yvonne.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they create the reality. If you own pain, you get pain. You own joy, you get joy.
How do you get out of that realm? Do you choose?
It's simple, Yvonne. It's really simple. We just make it hard. Because you know why? Because we say it's hard. We say, oh, this is difficult to understand. So we're putting all those tags on it. Always tagging. Let's tag with joy. Let's tag with peace. Let's tag with unconditional love. Let's tag of oneness.
So you're saying change the tags from sad to depressed?
Yes.
From sad.
Change the tags. Change the tag. You want to walk around with something on your chest that says, I'm in depression, everybody. Take a look. I'm in depression. That's what you're doing. When you're saying, it's hard for me to change. I want to be depressed. I want to be depressed.
I have a question. So if a person has been experiencing what they would label as depression, and if those thoughts that they've been thinking solicit, are on the energy frequency to solicit the lower vibrational emotions that you'd like to feed on that lower energy. I mean, how do you make the shift? Because that energy is, do we have a pain body? Is that energy kind of stuck in there if you've been wallowing in this depressive thought field for an extended amount of time?
How do you get out of it? First, you have to say to yourself, I don't want this. I don't want this. I'll repeat it again. I don't want this. That's the first thing. But sometimes we claim it. It's like cold. You're experiencing a cold. So people say, you ask them, how do they feel? They say, oh, I have a cold. They've claimed and taken the whole thing. I have it. I'm not letting go of it. I have it. I am depressed. I own it. It's part of me. I want to keep it because I want to own it. I want to experience this. Then the question becomes, why? Why? Why do you want to experience that? Who taught you to experience that? Maybe it was your mother. Maybe it was your father. Maybe it was an aunt. Maybe it was a brother. Maybe it was a sister. You got it. You learned it from someplace. It just didn't pop up out of your brain that you're going to be depressed. It just doesn't do that. You get it from someplace. You learn it from someplace. And then you develop all the other realities around it. Because what do? All the other realities support depression. Next question.
Yvonne, or should I continue?
I think you should continue. I'm really kind of contemplating this.
Okay, because
If you go, I do
if you're in the depression and then you're realizing that it is an illusion and you no longer want to create the support mechanisms around it, how do you release that state?
You decide that you're going to do something about it. You decide that you're going to do something about it. In other words, one way might be to go to a functional medicine doctor. Might be to just go to an allopathic doctor, as you call them. It might be to go and do some meditation. There's so many ways that you can create to get rid of it. So many ways. But you're going to get rid of it by where you are in your brain. If you firmly believe, I don't need to keep this, I don't want it, then everything is going to start coming to you to help you get rid of it. It's going to come. They got to support you. The energy must support you. That is what you're dealing with. You're not dealing with the wizard. You're dealing with the energy. The energy brings it. The energy changes it. And it does your bidding. It does your bidding.
And if we... Oh, go ahead, Yvonne.
This brought into my mind, people can, they experience something, they decide they're going to experience it, then they decide they don't want it, and then they decide to change it in some way by bringing in something that would change it. But what about, you see in families, sometimes there's patterns that keep coming up for different people inside the family. It's the same concept, like, oh, maybe, my mother was depressed, now I'm depressed, and now my kids, so it just
those
sort of
epigenetic patterns.
Yeah, so what about that realm? Like, what's your comment about that? Like, if we think we can, be created and can uncreate and, change that, shift it, but what about all those other...
The epigenetic patterns are never stronger than you.
They're not?
No. That's part of the illusion. You believe it. That's why we said depression.
Ah, yes, that's right. You did say that.
Because why? You believe it. I don't have to be an addict because my mother was one. Epigenetics then is, I learned to be an addict, so therefore I must be one. No, you can always change. You are never solidified in any way of thought or being ever. ever.
But I think it
Go ahead, Leigh.
it goes back to that state of being. I mean, once you're in the state of being where you recognize that this pattern no longer serves you, that's the first step in the transmutation. Yes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. To know that you are never caught in anything. You are never caught in what you judge as poverty. You are never caught, as you say, in discrimination. Only
Realm.
believe it.
We are wrapping up this week's episode of Shifting Impressions. Can I give you the final word?
The final word is, as always, love yourselves unconditionally.
Thank you, Realm. And there we have it. Another episode of Shifting Impressions has come to a close. We welcome you to join us next week on Shifting Impressions. You can find us on Transformation Talk Radio and the other streaming networks. Thank you for listening until we create each other again.
Once again, thanks for joining us at Shifting Impressions, Conversations with the Realm of Beings on TransformationTalkRadio.com. As you have explored today's creation of reality experience with Leigh, Yvonne, the Realm, and me, Gretta, each of you is being supported by us in further developing the understanding that you are not just an individual existing in linear time and space, but a multidimensional force of infinite possibilities who is connected to all. So begin to create the realities you want. Join us every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific Time and 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Shifting Impressions at TransformationTalkRadio.com. So long until we create each other again next Friday.